Welcome to scripting tutorial number 5, and in this one we're going to set up a couple of portals that will jump the character from one area to another. And to demonstrate what we're going to be creating, I'm going to operate a couple levers here which will spawn a portal, and that portal is going to, when I touch it, will jump me over to this corner. Now when we really do it for real, we'll set it up so that it jumps you to a different area, but just to show you how it works. These are levers on the ground. I can go and click on them to operate them, and they will move. And when I do the second one, once they're both on, this portal appears. Now here, and also one feature is if I turn off either one, the portal disappears. So it matters that both portals or both levers are activated. And then when I walk into it, I appear over in this corner. And you can make that happen across area boundaries. So, and then also once you turn them off, it's not just that the portal disappears, but the invisible thing that makes the jump happen is also deactivated. So I'm not going anywhere. Okay, let's learn how to do this. We're going to put these portals, these levers, actually in our forest area. I set up a temporary area just to demonstrate it, but I'm going to end up deleting all these things here. So I'm just going to delete this. And we'll go to our forest. And we're going to place these portals down here. Let's first of all remember to move your starting location to right here. And what I'll do is I'll set up the levers. We're going to go to placeables and containers and switches, floor lever, that's what it is. There's two of them. We'll take the first one. And I'm just going to set these up right here. And then what we'll do is we'll make the portal appear over here somewhere. Now your tiles may look different. You may have trees in the way or whatever. So just make the portal appear somewhere back here. What I don't want is for the portal to be up here, because we don't want to have to go and interact with this guy if we don't have to. So let's just keep it closer to the lever so we can just test it out without having to go through this process of picking up the ring so we don't get attacked and all that. Now once the levers are in place, we need to right click on them and make sure their initial state is deactivated. Okay. And now what we will do is begin writing some code for these levers. So actually let's set up our waypoint where the portal is going to appear. So let's go over here to waypoints, and we're going to do a regular old waypoint at the bottom here, and we'll just put it right here, or like I said, you can put yours somewhere over here if you've got space. And I'm going to right click on this and go to properties, and the important thing to change here is the tag, and the tag is going to be SM for scripting module in WP, in waypoint. This is the waypoint we're going to walk into to get to the portal. And click OK. And then the other thing we're going to do is we're going to paint a trigger on the ground. And go to generic trigger and do new generic. And we're going to paint, I'm going to actually change my view so I'm right on top of this thing so I can look down on it. And I'm just going to paint a shape around the portal and then double click to end it. And that's my trigger. And it's important that you do this generic trigger. Even though this is going to be a trigger that warps us to a new place, do not use area transition. And the reason is when the player is playing the game, if they mouse over an area transition, it'll light up kind of like doorways do. And this is supposed to be a hidden thing on the ground, so it shouldn't light up or anything. All the player is going to see is the portal that appears. Okay, and now also for future reference, I'm going to talk about this in a little bit. Portals are, there's a lot of placeable special effects called visual effects you can drop down on the ground. And so there's two types of portals here. If I grab the second one, and paint it on the ground, it looks like this, and that's the one we're going to use. But in order to create it on the fly from the code, we have to know what its blueprint is. So I'm going to right click on this and choose Properties. And just for future reference, PLC_portal, that's the blueprint reference. So when you're trying to create something from the code, it doesn't exist yet, so there is no tag you can use. Tags only are on things that actually exist. So we have to use the blueprint. So we'll be addressing this in the code in a little bit. So that's, if you want to use something from, and you want to generate it from code and you don't know what the blueprint is, find it in your library and put one in the ground and just check its properties. And then we can delete it because we don't need this one. Okay, our trigger, we need to change some properties in here. Go to Properties, and we need to change the tag on this, and we're going to use PORTTRIG, port trig. And that's it for now. Okay, so these are named. The waypoint is SM_INWP, INWP, and the trigger is port trig. Those are the tags we need to reference. Okay, let's go to our lever. And we're going to go to, let's change the tag on this. And this will be lever 1. And the other one will be, I bet you can guess it. Lever 13, you probably, no, I'm just kidding, lever 2. Okay, now we're going to write a script for this lever, and we're going to write it in such a way that we can use the script for both levers. So they're actually both going to use the same script. And all we need to do is, when the player operates a lever, we need to find out whether the lever is currently on or off, and then switch it to on or off. If it's off, we turn it on. If it's on, we turn it off. And then we need to check if both of them are on. And if they both are, then we create a portal. If they're not, we don't do anything. Okay, that's the idea. So let's go in here, go to Properties, go to Scripts, and there's a script for a lever called onUsed. And this gets fired every time the player operates it. So let's edit that. And of course, this one is blank to start out with. So we're going to create an integer, and this int is just to tell us whether or not the lever is currently on or off, activated or deactivated. Because, I mean, we can see it in the game, but we can't see it from the code unless we find out what its state is. So every lever has a variable that's on the lever called lever state. So we're just going to check that variable and find out if it's activated or deactivated. So int this, lowercase n, this lever equals get local int object self lever state. Okay, that variable already exists on the lever as part of a default lever. So we're just going to find out what it is. If it's 0, the lever's not activated. If it's 1, it's activated. So, and since we started these in the initial state, they should start out at 0. So we'll test it in the code. If n this lever equals 1, is equal to 1, okay, so what we'll do to turn it off is we will, first of all, set the local int. And we'll set it to 0. And that will turn it off internally, okay? The lever will know that it is supposed to be off. And in order for the player to witness that it's turning off, we need to do an animation on here. So we're going to say play animation. And I'm going to go over here to our constants, and we're going to look for deactivate. And here's a constant that is one of the animations you can use called placeable deactivate. So things like torches and levers and switches, they can all use this to animate themselves turning off. So we will use that here. Make sure you type it in all caps. Animation underscore placeable underscore deactivate. And remember, we are telling this lever to turn itself off because it was currently on. There's also one for activate, and we'll use that in the other one, okay? So obviously, if that's not the case, if this lever is a 0, that means it's already off and we need to turn it on. So we'll put that in the comments here. Lever is off and we need to turn it on. So we'll do the opposite of what we did before. In fact, you can just copy this and paste it and change this to a 1 and change that from deactivate to activate. Okay, that by itself will successfully operate the levers and make them look like they're moving when you touch them. Okay, so let's save our script right now. We're going to call this sm underscore lever underscore OU for on used. And this is going to work for either lever. Okay, we'll do either one. We'll put the same script on both of them because it just uses object self to find out what its own lever state is. Now, once we've done that, now we need to go through a process of checking whether both levers are on. Okay, so we just either turned one lever off or turned the lever on. And if they're both on, now we need to generate a portal and set that up. So let's set up some variables here. Okay, we're going to get copies of each lever in the code so we can test them. So we'll say int n lever 1 equals get local int get object by tag lever 1 lever state. Now you might ask yourself, well, aren't we writing the script for lever 1? Why do we have to get the object by tag? Why don't we just use object self here? Well, the reason is, like I said, we're going to use the script on both of them. So for this portion, the only question we have to answer is, am I on or off? So we can use object self and just one variable. But in this case, we need to get both levers and find out if they're on or off. And so since we don't know right now which lever this is going to be called from, this portion needs to be written to grab both levers. Because if we're on lever 2, getting object self would only get me and not the other one. So we have to get both of them by name to be sure we have the right information. That way the script will work on both levers. Okay, we'll have a second one here. I'm going to copy this and paste it. And we'll change this from 1 to 13. No, I'll just get 2. And this one needs to be lever 2. And that way we'll have both of those. Then we need to see, are they both on? If, and we'll do a couple parentheses here. In fact, I'll set it up like this. Okay, inside of here and here are the two things we need to check. So we're going to say n lever 1 equal to 1 and n lever 2 is equal to 1. And you don't have to space them out. Sometimes it's easier to read, especially for beginning programming students. It's easy to get lost in how many parentheses we have here. So I'll take up that space again. Okay, in other words, if they're both on, then we're going to do this. We're going to say object O portal spot. We need to get the place where we want to create the portal, and that place is going to be the location of the waypoint. Now this is something we haven't talked about, but location is a type, just like int, just like object. So you can create a location, and then you can get the location of any object. So I'm going to write one of those kind of nested, one-liner code lines here. It might be confusing to read it, but I'll explain it. What we're after ultimately is an object we can create the portal next to, or a location we can create it on. Get waypoint by tag, and our waypoint was called SM_NWP. Okay, and then I'm going to say create object, and I'll show you this function up here so you're clear. Create object. We need to give it a number of things here. We've done this one before actually, or something similar. We need to give it what type of object we're going to create. And this one, what is this? Well, it's an int. If you look up here in the description, object type item, object type creature, object type placeable, object type store, object type waypoint. These are all defined object types, and they're integers, they're numbers, which is why this is an int. And that just means that they're constants. They're in this list here. So I can look at object type, and you can see all the object types there. And placeable is the one we're going to use. Let me go back to that. Create. So object type placeable here. The string is the template or blueprint for it. And I remember when I painted the portal down and I looked at the properties, PLC_portal, that's what we use for that. And then the location, we're going to use the location of our waypoint, which is object O portal spot. We'll use this to find the location. And then these ones use appear animation and then give it a new string. Use appear animation is kind of weird. We're going to leave that at, we're going to put true for this. Sometimes when you use true, it does a weird, I've had it drop skeletons from the sky. I don't know why that was the choice of BioWare to make it work that way, but sometimes false is better. You just rather have them kind of fade in. In this case, the true, when you put in true, it does actually generate that portal kind of slowly as it glows up from the ground. So that's what we use here for true. And this one we'll leave blank. This is a new tag. When you're creating an option, when you're creating an object, you have the option of giving it a tag when you create it. But we're not going to. We're going to leave that blank. So here we go. Object type placeable. The template is PLC_portal. For this one, we want true, and then that other one we'll leave off. Oops, I'm sorry, I left one out. We need to get a location. Where do we want it to show up? And for this, we're going to put a function right in here. We're going to say get location, and to use get location, we need to give it an object and its tag. Or I guess this is a variable name. We're not going to use that one. We're just going to use the object. So we're going to put in get location O portal spot. And then we'll put true. And that's it. Okay? So we created O portal spot and we put the waypoint in there. And then we're using the waypoint to find its location to use as a location to spawn the portal. Okay, the last thing we have to do creating the portal is one thing. That just makes it appear and glow and look nice. But it doesn't do anything. Portals don't automatically jump the character anywhere. We have to write code to make that happen. So remember, we painted a trigger around that portal. And that trigger is going to be kind of like turned off by default. So it's going to just sit there and not do anything. But once both levers turn on, as soon as we create the portal, we also want to tell that trigger that it's now armed and ready, so that if a player walks into it, they're going to get warped somewhere. But we have to do that in the code. So let's arm the trigger. We're going to say set local int get object by tag, and the tag for the trigger was port trig. The variable we want to set is a variable called ready, and we want to set it to a value of 1. Okay? So that will set up that variable for us on the portal trigger. Okay, that is the end of this script for now. We're going to come back and make a change to it later. Let's test it out right now, just see if it's working the way it's supposed to. So we will make sure it's on used. Click OK. Also, we need to go over to our second lever and go to Properties and go to Scripts. And for on used, we need to locate that script and put it on here also. So scroll down to the S's. And here it is, SM lever OU. So now they're both running the same script, so it should work. We'll save it and test it. Okay, I'm going to walk over here, do that lever, and it animates. We'll do this one, it animates. What do you know? There's the portal. Now I can walk over to that, and it shouldn't do anything because we haven't set up anything for it to do yet. Okay. Oh, look at my guy's coming to fight me. I was too close. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm going to move that portal back so it doesn't do that. Select both that and the trigger and move them this trigger doesn't like to move very easily. Okay, well, I guess that's good enough. Okay, so that's that. I didn't test turning it off. I should have tested that. Oh, we're going to do that later. Sorry. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so where do we want to go? Well, how about if we set it up so that this portal takes us to the desert. So let's go and open up our desert area. And let's put a portal down in this corner here. I'm sorry, not a portal, a waypoint. Let's go here, grab a waypoint. I'm just going to put it right over here in the corner. And we're going to name this SM_out WP. And it doesn't need a portal attached to it. It just needs to be a location we can access. Okay? And now let's go back to our forest. And go to your trigger and go to Properties and Scripts, and there's a script called onEnter. So this is fired obviously when a player crosses the line of the trigger, and then you can do whatever you want to. Triggers are really useful for all kinds of stuff. So we'll go to Edit, and here is what we're going to do. First of all, we need to find out who just walked into the trigger. Was it the player or was it a bunny rabbit? We don't want to warp bunny rabbits. Actually, some of you do, I can tell. But in this case, we don't. So we're going to say object OPC equals get entering object. And then object ODEST, short for destination, equals get waypoint by tag. And our tag is SM_outWP. And then we're going to have an int called nReady. And that is going to equal get local int object self ready. Okay, so in this case, well, start up here. We'll create an object that's empty, we'll call it OPC, and we'll get whatever object just came into the trigger. It might be a rabbit, might be a goblin, might be the player, but we'll test that in a minute. Next, we'll set up a destination, and we're going to use the out waypoint, which is over in the desert, as our destination. And then we have a variable called nReady, and this is going to see if the trigger is ready to be used. Remember, when you turn both levers on, the trigger has a variable called ready that gets set to a 1. We're going to get that variable, that local int, and see if it's a 1 or a 0. So we have a multiple condition if here. So I'll do one condition, they both have to be true, so we can use and, a second condition, and we'll close it off. And the first condition we want to check is nReady equal to 1? And the other one we want to see is get is PC OPC. Make sure you capitalize PC on this. A lot of you guys had errors from typing a lowercase c right there. It's case sensitive, it does matter. So I'll take out my extra spaces now that it's clear what we're writing. So you know, just match up your parentheses, make sure you got 3 on the end here, by the way. Got 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and 2 here. Okay, so if both of those are true, if the trigger's ready and it's the player character that walked through the trigger, then assign command OPC jump to location, get location, destination. All right, a little bit complicated here. Assign command, super handy. You can assign any of these functions to any other object in the game. If for some reason you want your treasure chest to disappear from the room and appear somewhere else, you can assign command, you know, treasure chest, jump to location, and then you just need a location. You can use the get location function of some waypoint or object to make that happen. Okay, so pretty simple, and that's all that is for this script. If either one of these is false, the trigger's not ready, that means both the levers aren't on. And if it's not the PC, obviously we don't want to jump them. So that's all we do. Save this. We're going to call it SM underscore trigger. No, I'm sorry. Call it SM portal. No, we'll call it trigger. Nope. Portal underscore EN. Enter. SM underscore portal enter. Portal underscore EN. We'll save that. And we'll close this and click OK. And theoretically, I think everything is in place. So let's once again test this. We'll save it. Build test module. And hopefully I won't get attacked this time. We'll come over here and turn this lever on. Turn this one on. I'm going to walk into the portal and I should disappear and reappear in the desert. What do you know? And there's our dart thrower already throwing darts. Okay, so this works. And let's exit that. Now, the one thing we haven't set up is if you go here and you turn on the portals, turn on the levers, and then turn them off, the portal doesn't disappear, it stays there. What we should do is if either one of these gets turned off, it should disappear. And here's how we'll set that up. We're going to go to our sm_lever_ou script. And right down here, we ask the question, are both levers on? Well, if they are, we do the portal creation. But if they're not, there is a chance that this isn't the first time we've called this script, and that the portal is currently sitting there visible and working. And if you turn one of those levers off, we want to make sure that if both levers aren't on, that portal gets destroyed. So it's a really simple script. We're going to say object oPortal equals get object by tag. And the tag on the portal is just portal with a capital P. And I know that, once again, because I painted it down there, and if you look at the tag that comes by default, it's just portal. I spelled it wrong. I spelled portal. And so that is the tag. So you can find any tag by painting an object and looking at it. You'll see what the default tag is. Now we're going to test to make sure that that portal that we tried to get is there. Because what if we tried to get it and it isn't there? Like when you do the lever for the first time, you've done one lever, they're not both on, and there's no portal in existence. So this might come back object invalid. So that's okay. What we'll do is we'll just say if get is object valid oPortal, then destroy object. And we don't only want to destroy the portal so it goes away, we also want to turn off the trigger so it doesn't allow you to walk over empty space. You could wander into that area and that invisible trigger is still there, and you might just get warped to the desert and be like, what? So we want to turn off that trigger. Set local int get object by tag ready 0. So we set that trigger ready variable to 0, and that means the trigger won't warp anybody anywhere. We'll save this and close it. And now we should give it a final test here. Build, test. Okay, turn the lever, there's the portal. And now what if I turn one of these off? Turn it back on. Okay, turn this one off. I'm going to walk over that area just to make sure it's not jumping me anywhere. Okay, we're good. Turn that back on. Walk over to it. Perfect. Okay, now that you've done this, here's what I want you to do. I want you to put another portal over here that warps you back to the forest. You don't need to set up levers. It doesn't need to be tied to any levers. It's just a portal that's always there. It's always sitting over here just on. And if the player touches it, they get jumped to the forest area. Okay? So it's a bit of a challenge, but if you think through the code that we just wrote and how it operates, you should be able to figure it out. Good luck.